Sometimes a single 60-minute game can rewrite a legacy built over a decade. From Jerome Bettis announcing retirement with a Lombardi trophy in his hands, to Antonio Brown's final game circus, stripping off his gear and storming off the field crazily. We're going to find out how a final game determined these 8 NFL legends' careers, for better or for worse. Starting off with the New York Giants' own bred and brought up Michael Strahan. Before stepping onto the field for his final game, Michael Strahan had already built a Hall of Fame-worthy career as a defensive end for the New York Giants. He was a 7-time Pro Bowler, a 4-time first-team All-Pro, and the man who shattered the NFL single-season sack record in 2001 with 22.5 sacks, earning him the Defensive Player of the Year. With 141.5 sacks over 15 seasons, Strahan was at the peak of his career. But for all of his accolades and achievements, Michael Strahan's shoulders were missing one final badge of honor. He was yet to win a Super Bowl. But Super Bowl or not, whispers of retirement already began circulating in 2007, right after Super Bowl 41. Strahan failed to report to the New York Giants training camp and hadn't even renewed his contract. Speculations grew that he might not return for the next season. Even the team coach, Tom Coughlin, wasn't sure if he'd return. In the playoff droughts, contract battles, and even $500,000 fine for skipping 36 days of training camp, Strahan was yet to make the final announcement. But after weeks of back and forth and deep reflection, Strahan withheld a retirement plan. So at 36, in his 15th season with the Giants, Strahan didn't return to pad his stats or chase a paycheck, but to get on that field one last time.
You feel 36 years old right now?
I feel great, man. I feel better than I've felt in years. And physically, my body's held up, and mentally, I'm definitely a lot fresher than I've been in the past.
Unfortunately, the Giants' 2007 season didn't start with fireworks. They dropped a 10-13 loss to the Lions in the preseason, and critics wrote them off fast. But months later, they were standing in the biggest spotlight, the Super Bowl 42. The Giants were up against the 18-0 New England Patriots, a team many dubbed as the greatest ever. New York, they were playing against the odds. But the Giants had one thing the Patriots didn't: a fired-up defense led by Michael Strahan.
This O-line we're facing today is the greatest O-line of all time. The quarterback cannot be sacked, can't even be hit.
Strahan broke through the line and brought Tom Brady to the ground.
3rd down and 7. Good jump off the line by Strahan, who gets the sack.
A moment that made him say, "You never lived unless you've hit Tom Brady." With 2 solo tackles and a sack, Strahan played like a man possessed. But more than that, his pep talks right at the end zone carried the team home.
17-14 is the final, okay? 17-14, fellas. 1 touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
And that's exactly how the odds turned out to be. The Giants stunned the world with a 17-14 victory, pulling off one of the biggest upsets in NFL history. The man had the entire game mapped out like he had envisioned it. And with that, Strahan's final game gave him his first and only Super Bowl ring. Weeks later, Strahan called his retirement.
Well, what can I say? It's been a great 15 years. Time to move on. And that's why I'm here for you today, and to say that it's over.
Many thought he could have just kept playing football in the 2008-2009 season before retiring. But for Strahan, it was a perfect ending. He didn't just end a career, he had completed his legacy. So glad Strahan won a Super Bowl before he retired, and he managed to get 2.5 sacks while doing it. Truly a great. Michael will always be the best football player ever for the New York Giants. But not everyone gets the same shot at forging legacies or reclaiming them. Meet Antonio Brown, one of the greatest wide receivers the NFL has ever seen. A 7-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro, and the man who dominated an entire decade of football. Since 2011, Brown has racked up more receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns than any other player. As a Super Bowl champion, a member of the NFL 2010's All-Decade team, Antonio Brown was building a legacy destined for Canton. But then, the temper took over. In Week 4 of the 2017 season, AB threw a sideline tantrum, furious over not getting the ball on a key play.
This is a first-class temper tantrum thrown by Antonio Brown, trying to get cooled down by offensive coordinator Todd Haley pulls away from Haley.
Weeks later, Brown got benched after he reportedly threw a ball at a teammate in practice, and things were equally ugly off the field as well. By the time he approached what would be his final season, Antonio Brown was knee-deep in controversy, facing sexual assault allegations.
New allegations overnight against NFL star Antonio Brown, accused of sexually assaulting a woman who worked as his trainer, all part of a new lawsuit.
And an 8-game suspension in the 2020 season. Everyone knew Brown has a very, very long history of being a problem child. Despite the mess, Tampa Bay Buccaneers gave him a shot to redeem himself, and he did so impeccably. Brown won his first and only Super Bowl, helping the Bucs claim their first NFL title in nearly 2 decades. But there was no telling if his antics would keep him in the game any longer. And just like that, the AB circus couldn't stay behind the curtains for long. In the middle of a Week 17 game against the New York Jets, Brown ripped off his jersey, tossed his gloves into the crowd, and stormed off the field shirtless.
The team was frustrated, but over on the sideline, Jen Hale described that he was angry. Somebody tried to calm him down. I think it was Mike Evans. So he took off his jersey and then his shirt. And then as he throws this in, he was moving around on the field when they weren't snapping. That's Antonio Brown without his uniform, we are told, without his jersey.
That was him essentially quitting mid-game, leaving everyone, including the coaches, confused. He later blamed Tom Brady, claiming the quarterback helped entice him to play through an ankle injury, making it the most bizarre exit in NFL history, and it effectively ended Antonio Brown's career. It didn't stop fans from taking a jig at him. This might be the first time in history that the crazy guy running on the field turned out to be a player. It isn't the record-breaking catches that define his legacy, but the abrupt and chaotic end to his career. Being great at the game is one thing. Ending it as is rare, and one cannot do it better than John Elway. When you think of quarterbacks who defined their position, Elway doesn't just come to mind. He tops the list as one of the greatest athletes at the quarterback position. 2-time Super Bowl champion, 5 AFC championships, Elway is the only player in NFL history to throw over 3,000 yards and rush for more than 200 yards in 7 straight seasons. In 1986, he delivered one of the most iconic moments in NFL history, the drive, a 98-yard game-tying march in the AFC Championship. Elway was crowned NFL MVP in 1987, Man of the Year in 1992, and earned All-Pro honors 3 times. He was already the people's favorite, but the road to a Super Bowl remained painfully dry. As Elway approached his late 30s, with 3 failed Super Bowl appearances and years of falling short in the AFC, many believed he'd retire without a ring. So at 37, going into what could be his last season and supposedly his last game, Elway was ready to risk it all to win that Super Bowl ring.
My goodness! You want to tell me the 37-year-old man doesn't want to win this game? That's sacrifice. Oh, man. The greatest 8-yard run in Super Bowl history by John Elway on 3rd down.
And he made it happen. Elway finally became a Super Bowl champion. It was a perfect ending. He could have walked away right then, a win to end his legacy. But Elway wasn't ready to quit competing. Elway shocked everyone, announcing a return for his 16th season. He was determined to defend the title or perhaps win another one. Heading into his final game, Elway was just as pumped as he was in his rookie year, and he delivered better than he did last year. Elway gave everything he had left on the field. The Broncos won Super Bowl 43, defeating the Atlanta Falcons 34-19 for 336 yards and 1 passing touchdown. Elway went out as the Super Bowl MVP in the final game of his career. At the time of his retirement, he ranked 2nd all-time in passing yards, attempts, and completions. He didn't just end a career, he sealed a legacy. John will always be one of the greatest QBs of all time and got his rewards in the end. Not every quarterback gets to end their career on a high note, but for some, even a Super Bowl win fails to safeguard their legacy. For Brett Favre, the arc of greatness bent downward. Brett Favre. For 16 seasons with the Green Bay Packers, Favre defined toughness and flair at quarterback. A Super Bowl champion, 3 straight league MVPs, and 3 consecutive first-team All-Pro selections. Plus, he was the only quarterback in NFL history to throw for more than 70,000 yards. Favre was called the gunslinger for his high-risk, high-reward playing style. He could make throws other quarterbacks wouldn't dare attempt. Underhanded flips, no-look passes, and scrambling throws. He could do it all. But as the 2000s rolled and Favre aged into his 30s, the gunslinger attitude was starting to misfire. In 2005 alone, he was sacked 34 times. Between 2005 and 2006, he threw 47 interceptions to just 38 touchdowns, and the Packers missed the playoffs both years. Time was slowly catching up to him. In what would be the final game of his career, Favre could only complete 5 passes for 63 yards, ending in a loss at 40-14. But something even worse was about to happen. With just 19 seconds left, rookie Corey Wooten delivered a brutal hit that knocked Favre unconscious. The first time in his entire 20-year career he had to be helped off the field that way. He was so disoriented that he forgot who he was playing, stating in an interview, "I remember looking at our trainer, Eric Sugarman, and saying, 'Shug, what are the Bears doing here?' That concussion kept him out of the final 2 games of the season, making it the last game of his 20-year-long career. And for many fans, watching a Super Bowl star fall like that was tough to watch. Seeing Favre knocked out cold to end his career was sickening. Done in by a Bear while wearing a Vikings uniform. Hard to imagine a worse way to end it for a Packers fan. But as they say, stardom can blind even the best. Some players forget when to walk away, unless you bow out holding a Lombardi trophy, or get one handed to you on the way out, like Peyton Manning did. Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl, became NFL's most valuable player twice, broke the record for highest single-season touchdown passes, and then turned 30. He had built a portfolio that many retire wishing for. They called him the Sheriff, and not without reason. In a legendary 2003 comeback against the defending Super Bowl champions, Manning led the Colts back from a 35-14 deficit. The Colts scored 28 fourth-quarter points to win 38-35 in overtime, a comeback few thought possible. Manning became the first quarterback to eclipse 40,000 passing yards in a single decade. Despite enduring 4 neck surgeries, one of which risked permanent paralysis, and being released by the Colts after 14 seasons with the franchise, Manning registered an epic comeback with the Broncos and won Comeback Player of the Year. Manning was set for glory and maybe a second Super Bowl ring, but a torn quadricep led him to being benched midway through the 2015 season. For the first time since his freshman year in college, Peyton Manning was listed as a backup. With many speculating a mid-season retirement, Manning returned in Week 17 to make a run for the Super Bowl. The 12-4 Broncos entered Super Bowl 50 as underdogs against the 15-1 Carolina Panthers. This time, Manning wasn't here to pad up his stat sheet. He threw just 141 yards, 13 of 23 passes with 0 touchdowns, but crucially, no interceptions. With 3 minutes and 8 seconds left, Manning shouted "Omaha" to set up C.J. Anderson's game-sealing touchdown.
Manning hits the pass to Fowler.
The final drive chewed up nearly 5 minutes and sealed the win at 24-10. While it was the lowest passing yards by a winning QB in Super Bowl history, Manning became the only quarterback to win Super Bowls with 2 franchises and also the first quarterback in NFL history to win 200 games as a starter. On March 7, 2016, Manning officially retired after 18 seasons.
There's just something about 18 years. 18 is a good number. And today I retire from pro football.
From being called a playoff choker to winning 2 Super Bowls despite the physical limitations, Manning walked off the field as a hero. He changed the game of football. Comebacks after career-threatening injuries are rare. Ask Eric Dickerson, known as the blazing running back with prescription goggles. Eric Dickerson's entry into the NFL came with a bang and started punching records straight from day one. In his rookie season alone, he completed 390 rushing attempts, 1,808 rushing yards, and 18 rushing touchdowns. He earned Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, a Pro Bowl selection, and first-team All-Pro honors, all in just his first year. At 6'3" and 220 pounds, Dickerson was fast enough to outrun defenders, agile enough to slice through them.
Eric Dickerson was the most feared man in the National Football League. Whenever you played him, he seemed unstoppable.
At 29, he was the highest paid running back in the NFL at $1.4 million a year. But his body was beginning to betray him. Injuries, suspensions, and fines dominated most of Dickerson's career with the Colts. Chronic back pain and nearly 3,000 career carries had drained the explosiveness from his game. But he kept pushing for lost glory. At 33, he signed with the Atlanta Falcons, not as their main running back, but as backup to Eric Pigram, and was barely called onto onto the field. His final game with Atlanta was a 6-0 shutout loss to the Chicago Bears. Dickerson only managed 2 carries for 3 yards and 0 touchdowns. Soon after, the Falcons traded him to Green Bay, but he never played a game with the team for failing to qualify physically. It was a quiet and to some, a humiliating exit for a player of his stature. Years later, in 2017, Dickerson signed a 1-day contract to the Rams, only to officially retire as one of them. Many saw it as a desperate attempt at namesaving, but his forerunner Jerome Bettis showed that it's possible to walk off the field a legend with a Super Bowl ring in his hometown. Right from the beginning, Jerome Bettis wasted no time making his mark. A 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro, ranked 8th all-time in NFL rushing yards, and of course, a Super Bowl champion. At 260 pounds on a 5'10" frame, Jerome Bettis was the NFL big guy that rammed through defenses like dominoes. Like Dickerson, Bettis was named Rookie of the Year and earned first-team All-Pro honors. And to this day, he holds the most rushing yards by a Rams rookie in a single game, even more than Eric himself. After losing the AFC Championship in 2004 to the New England Patriots, Bettis said, "I told the coach that I was retiring. I told my teammates. If it weren't for his teammates, Bettis would be missing the biggest trophy an NFL player could dream of."
I just wanted to thank the team because I knew that my career was over. And so I was ready to retire, and that's the moment I started to think about going back and playing another season. And
he was convinced to stay one more year, and it changed everything. For the first time in his 13-year career, Bettis was headed to the Super Bowl, and it just so happened to be his hometown of Detroit, so he knew he had to make it count. Bettis' Steelers were up against the Seattle Seahawks. In his final showdown, Bettis rushed for 43 yards on 14 carries, helping Pittsburgh win 21-10, their first title in 26 years. Moments after the win, Bettis lifted up the Lombardi Trophy and announced his retirement right there on the field.
I played this game to win a championship. I'm a champion, and I think the bus is, the last stop is here in Detroit.
Bettis at last gave a perfect storybook ending to his career and was fared off with well wishes and tears. But for every player who ends like Bettis, there's someone like JaMarcus Russell, whose dream turned into a cautionary tale. JaMarcus Russell was a prodigy during his college years. With over 6,000 passing yards and 52 touchdowns, Russell cemented his way to the NFL draft stock. Standing 6'6" with a cannon for an arm, scouts said he was impossible to pass on, so it was no surprise when it came to draft night.
With the first pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Oakland Raiders select quarterback JaMarcus Russell, LSU.
But the signs of complacency started early. While he showed flashes of potential, his rookie year was lukewarm. Russell led a comeback win the following year, posting a career-best 236 yards and 2 touchdowns. But that was just about it for Russell's peak in the NFL, and it wasn't an injury that bolstered him away from football, but his work ethics, or the lack of it. His 2009 season was a complete collapse. Russell showed up 40 pounds overweight, tipping the scale at 305 pounds. He skipped workouts, ignored training, and reportedly refused to study film or the playbook. In a Week 5 loss to the New York Giants, Russell lost 3 fumbles and threw for just 100 yards. He was demoted to 3rd string behind Charlie Fry. Even his final NFL game was a loss to the Ravens. Just 9 completions on 14 attempts for 102 yards, no touchdowns, and his 25th career fumble. He finished the 2009 season with the lowest completion percentage, fewest passing touchdowns, and passing yards among all qualifying quarterbacks. So on May 6, 2010, after just 31 games, the Raiders released him, and JaMarcus Russell's career was over. He went from top overall pick to NFL bust in a hurry. And sadly, his post-NFL life didn't get better either. He tried making a comeback in 2010, then again in 2013. He even wrote letters to all 32 teams offering to play for free, but no one gave him a shot. JaMarcus could have been a great QB, but did not have the heart or discipline. From being the #1 overall pick to completely out of the league in just 3 years. Russell had no send-off, no glory, no second act, just silence, and a reminder that raw talent can't carry you if you don't have the discipline to carry yourself.